This is Mike with AskTractorMike.com. It's winter, and this time of year a lot of people put their tractors away and forget about them. And if you own a boat, you wouldn't think of putting your boat away without winterizing it. And you really kind of need to pay a little attention to what's going on with your tractor before you put it away for the winter. And I use my tractor year-round, so I don't really winterize it. But if you're the kind of person that uses a tractor and then parks it in the late fall or early winter and you won't see it again until spring, I'm going to give you some tips today to keep it nice and give it a long life. First thing I'm going to do with my tractor before I put it away for the winter is clean it. And the first thing I'm going to clean is the radiator. You'll probably be amazed at all the stuff in the radiator, especially if you've been brush hogging late in the season when the seeds are ripe on the weeds and they just come right back and clog up the radiator. And I have a product I really believe in called a Radiator Genie. And there's a link in the description below if you want to order one of these off Amazon. And a Radiator Genie actually has two wands in the package. One works with air, compressed air, and the other works with water. And I hook up the one that takes water. It hooks up to a garden hose and blow from the back forward all the debris out of the radiator the last time I'm using the tractor before I put it away for the winter. And if you have a battery in front, you may want to cover it up with something to keep the water off the battery, but blow all that junk out of there. Don't leave it in there over the winter to mold and get nasty for spring. So you start the spring with a clean radiator. While we're talking about our radiator, now's the time to get our antifreeze tester out and check our coolant mix and make sure that our coolant won't freeze during the winter and cause a major damage. Now the next thing I'm going to do is clean the overall tractor. And I have to admit I did a dumb thing. Tractor Mike doesn't always do the smartest things. I took my power washer and gave my tractor a really good bath. And what I ended up doing, I probably, if anything, over-greased around the different grease fittings, because I know grease is the lifeblood of a tractor. And when the grease runs out, I just let it sit there. I figure that keeps all the paint fresh underneath it. But when you hit it with a power washer, I have blasted grease, little chunks of grease all over this tractor. But that gives me a chance to talk about my sponsor's product, WD-40 Industrial Strength Cleaner and Degreaser. This is a new product for WD-40, and it's a cleaner. And you can use it on any surface that's painted, and it's biodegradable, it's not flammable. And so if you blasted grease all over your tractor like I did, and you've got little bits of grease everywhere, just spray a little bit of this on where you got grease, and then just wipe it and it'll take it right off. And this is a product I would keep with me on my tractor if you're one of those people that is real anal about keeping your tractor clean. But I mean, it takes grease right off. And it won't hurt the environment. So if you're cleaning your tractor in your yard, that's okay. But for taking little bits of grease off like that, oh man, it's awesome. Now let's move on to the next thing, and that's the fuel. Common sense would kind of tell you that you want to run all the fuel out you can so you can put fresh fuel in the spring, and that's not what you want to do. What the experts advise you doing is filling the diesel tank up almost to the top and then putting a diesel treatment in. And the one I like, and I don't get anything for plugging this, but the one that they use at the dealership where I used to work and everybody seemed to like it, is House brand. And I think O'Reilly and most auto parts stores have this. This is what I use, and that'll keep them from being any like nasty algae growing in your fuel tank over the winter, which can happen with a tank that's not nearly full. The next thing I want to think about is my seat. Now, some of you have seats where the water drains away from them, but a lot of us have tractors with a seat like this, and it has a little kind of a reservoir in the middle of it where water will stand, like a lot of water. Poor design. But what I want to do on this tractor, if you've got a seat like this where you can, is either cover it with plastic or tip it forward so water drains out of it. And then underneath that seat is a safety switch. I'm going to cover that area up, and I've got a empty supplement bucket that I'm going to put over that to keep water from accumulating there. And then that'll let that winter okay, and I'll tie it down so it doesn't blow off. The next thing we're going to do, and this is probably the most critical, have some kind of control for vermin, for rats and mice. Rats and mice can do horrendous damage to the wiring of a tractor, especially if it's stored outside. That looks like a house to them, a nice place to spend the winter. And they'll crawl up in there, and if you have several days of snow, they'll eat wiring. And you could have a real expensive fix if you have to put a new wiring harness on. I'm not going to tell you how to control the vermin, the rats and the mice. You'll have to figure that out on your own. I don't want the animal rights people coming after me, but it's a real concern because I've seen many tractors and many cars where the wiring harness was totally destroyed by vermin living in the unit over the winter. So we don't want that. Now the next thing I want to do is take a look at my front end loader and my loader bucket. Definitely don't leave the loader bucket where it accumulates moisture over the winter. Tilt it forward. Now my best thing to do, if you have a quick attach loader bucket, take the bucket off, turn it over so it doesn't accumulate water, and let it sit that way over the winter. And then take your loader bucket faceplate, the part where the loader mounts, and tilt it all the way back. And that way the chrome part, the part that goes in and out of the seals in the cylinder, is not exposed to the elements. If you have to leave it forward, take a thin layer of grease and spread it all over that ram so that doesn't get rusty over the winter. That's a big danger to your tractor. Now the last thing I'm going to tell you today about the tractor is the battery. If you're going to store the tractor out, especially if it's far away from your house and you're not out there a lot, I would take the battery out and take it home and put it on a block and maybe come out every month or so and put a trickle charger on it and let it charge for a couple hours. Tractor theft is a huge issue, and if the battery's gone, it's unlikely that thieves are going to go buy a battery or steal the battery and put it in the tractor to steal it. So it might save your tractor from walking away in the winter, and keeping that battery inside in your garage will probably make it last just a little bit longer. When you put it back on and you put those terminals on there, put grease on top of the terminals. It'll keep there from being a garden grow up there. If you'll do those things, you can let your tractor sit out over the winter. Tractors are made to sit outside. They'll last longer and look nicer if they're inside, but if you have to store them outside, they're ready for that. One last thing I would do, and this is kind of unrelated to the tractor, but it's a great idea. Take the PTO shafts off your implements, take them home and put them in a garage. You don't want any rust forming in there, and if you probably got room in your garage to put the PTO shafts, and maybe squirt them with a quick dose of WD-40 before you put them away, just to make sure when you get them out in the spring they all come apart. But they don't need to be stored outside. You'll save yourself a lot of grief if you put them inside. I survive on web traffic. I'd be honored if you'd subscribe to my YouTube channel and like my Facebook page and share this video with other tractor enthusiasts. And if you have questions or comments, put them down below. We'll try to answer them. Thanks for watching.